Hey, what is up, guys? It is Rapmark here. So, a little delayed, unfortunately, but here we are with episode 4, season 2 of The Bad Batch. This one called Faster. And this one was kind of strange. Like, it felt like a filler, but when you look at it, it kind of wasn't a filler, which is kind of strange. So, anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say really badly with that is with how, considering the deep and dark sort of aspects the first 3 episodes of this season has had, this one felt a little more lighthearted, a little more like self contained. It still had, elements that moved the plot forward, sort of, but to me, it did it in a really good way. Like, I enjoy, like, so this one is essentially about racing. It's they are in, what planet is this called? It is Safatoma. Sort of a back underground type thing, a planet, and they do something similar to pod racing, which is called riot racing. So this one essentially takes Tech, Wrecker, Sid, and Omega. So once again, I loved the characters, and man, Tech really came into himself on this. I loved how much focus was in on him. Um, and I absolutely love that, you know, like the whole racing aspect of it. You know, we all remember the first, episode 1 of Star Wars. Pod racing. That's kind of insane. So this is a little different. So pod racing, it's you take a rig and you attach 2 big jet engines on it, and it's kind of crazy. You don't really have weapons. You're just literally going as fast as you can. And man, you need some good reflexes on it. This one, well, you're still going fast. Like, it's essentially like its own self-contained like ship. You have shields on your ship. You have weapons. You're not going as fast, and the the course is much more crazy. Like, if you were to take a pod racer on the course that they had for riot racing, your rig would be all over the place. Like, you would go up into the sky. You'd be There'd be curves you would not be able to make, for sure. Um, and yeah, so I liked that again. We got a new planet. I liked that. Um, and while I still think she gets a little too much gravitas, still, and that's just my personal opinion. I do like the fact that Omega's in this. I want to see more Echo. I wonder if what the next episode will go into. Um, if it'll go into what they did, but otherwise, whether or not it'll have more of the Bad Batch in it or whatnot. But once again, I absolutely loved that Tech kind of made his way in this, piloting that rig just because he is just essentially like a human computer. I mean, so you also meet Teo, who is played by the actor for who plays the live action Sonic, Ben Schwartz. And yeah, as soon as I heard that, I'm just like, yep, I see what they did there. I see what they did there. It's just great. He's so cocky. He's kind of annoying, and you kind of expect all the bad things that happen to him. He gets broken apart like twice. But yeah, you kind of get a tiny bit of like more backstory on Sid, and I'm just like, the thing with Sid is, I think I know what they're doing with her, and the problem is there's just not enough there for it to be believable to me. You know, a Trandoshan with a heart of gold. At least I think she's Trandoshan. Don't quote me on that, and don't kill me if it turns out to be wrong. Anyway, but regardless, I don't know. I would have a lot more respect for the writers if there was some sort of betrayal. You know, even if it isn't an intentional betrayal. Like I said, I see what they're doing with her. You know, but there was once a point in time where she was a true and honest scumbag. You know, from what it sounds like. You know, and she's trying to make but I mean, she's still out in it for herself. Maybe she does care about these guys. I mean, I think that's what they're trying to do, but again, I just don't think there's enough there for me to actually believe it. Um, so yeah, I think in spite of what they're trying to do, I'd have a lot more respect for the series if at some point in the future there is a sort of betrayal, you know, and it doesn't have to be like an obvious betrayal. It could be maybe she gets caught and it's just like in order to save her own skin, you know, she sells them out or something. I don't know. Uh, Again, I don't know how many of these are going to make, where it's going to end off. I mean, again, last one we have Commander Cody, but we have no idea what his fate is. We have zero clue. Like he doesn't die. At least we don't know if he dies. We don't know if he retired. Like he is not mentioned in Rebels, like some of the other ones who have had their origin stories sort of explained in this series. But at the yeah, so I don't know. I don't remember if Sid's like a part of any lore as far as I know, but yeah, so it's kind of a open thing. Like I do know a lot of Star Wars lore, but at the same time there is so much, especially if you go into like the old stuff, you know, the expanded universe, you know, legends and stuff that's not canon anymore, that I don't know. Stuff gets garbled to my knowledge, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Sid is mentioned in any other series or book besides this. So it's kind of new what's going to happen with her. Um, but yeah, she has a sort of business rival there, Malegi. Uh, I guess they were at one point partners or, you know, business partners. Uh, and she betrayed him, or I don't know what. Again, stuff is like alluded to with her character without actually saying anything. And the problem with that is again, it doesn't, is that I see with what they're doing with the show, what they're trying to do with Sid, but there's just not enough there for me to believe it. Like, at this point, unless something really big happens, and if there's just a massive turnaround in her personality, like she really starts to care and all that stuff, it's a little too much of a turn. You know, if it's a sort of self-serving betrayal, like if she wouldn't like do it for her own gain, like she wouldn't, I would buy that. But again, if she were captured or if she were under pressure or whatnot, then yeah, I would get it. Uh, but yeah, so he alludes to a lot of things into her past. You know, she is kind of saying out that she's not interested in going back to the past. She's moved on. She might just surprise you. Stuff like that. But anyway, so Teo gets wrecked again. So essentially, Malegi has a driver, but apparently has another one under his employee, and they sort of do this sort of tag team thing where one of them captures the driver with a hook, and then the other one cuts the engine parts out with a slicer, and then that's that, and then they get first and second place. So he gets wrecked, and Wrecker has to take it. And one thing I will say about this episode, the music. The music was amazing for this episode. It matched with the theme so much. It was kind of like techno, but like street racing. I don't know how to like explain it. It was like very electric, but very high paced. It matched just so well, and I absolutely loved it. I loved, the course itself. So yeah, this was a super, super fun one for me. Honestly, but again, like I said, the whole Sid thing, and then Omega kind of getting too much to do kind of does take a little bit away from that. And it kind of felt like a more self-contained episode. But as a self-contained episode, I think it did really good. So I'm debating between a 7 and an 8. Like, I'm probably being too generous, and this is probably the fanboy in me because I love racing, and I love like all the sort of dirty underground nitty gritty stuff of the Star Wars universe, like the underworld. So I'm going to give this an 8. This was a very fun one, and they actually killed someone in this episode, which made it even that much better. So I'll say this is deserving of an 8. I may come back later and be just like, I was too generous, but whatever. I'm giving this an 8. It was fun. I don't think it was quite. I think it had a couple issues here that I went into that the other 3 episodes so far this season didn't have. But still, this was, I felt, a very, very fun episode. And the fact they got the actor from that voices the live action Sonic, Schwartz, Ben Schwartz, yeah. That just made it a lot better. But yeah, like someone gets killed, like in the race. There's a driver that's shot, and he crashes, and his guns go off, goes into the crowd. Everyone's like ducking, and this guy just has a blaster shot to his chest. And then the announcer is just like, just as a reminder, we are not responsible for anyone getting shot, blown up, ran over, or disintegrated. Enjoy your time. It was pretty awesome. And then I love when Tech's being introduced. It's just like, Tech. Is that it? Just Tech? Do we have anything else on this guy? Like, it's just like, who is this guy? He's Tech. And yeah, he goes and he wins it. He manages to get out of the way. They make themselves crash, and then he wins it. And then you have another awkward thing of it. Tech. But then everyone starts chanting his name, and I guess this can be described like, I guess they have races going on all the time. So like winning one race is like all right, but they got races going on all the time, so it's not the biggest deal. But everyone's chanting his name, and like again, keep in mind, unless they're in hut space, which the Empire like is present there, but is they mostly let the huts do their own thing. Uh, like they don't want the Empire knowing where they're at or what they've been doing or whatnot, and that is very much going against it. So another thing I have to a little nitpick, obviously, but something I have to mention in terms of like story and possible hole in plot. So honestly, I think that's gonna be that for this episode. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, 8 out of 10. Uh, super happy with how they did it. It was actually kind of fun, and I love the music. I love Ben Schwartz, uh, and I like that Tech had his moment. Tech and Omega really were the underrated characters of the series last season, like for real. And it seems like they're getting a bit more screen time here. Not did I say Tech and Omega? I meant Tech and Echo. Echo. Yeah, like Omega again. There's a little too much gravitas there, but she is kind of growing on me. It makes more sense, and it doesn't feel like an escort mission anymore. It kind of feels like she's more amongst the team. But man, like sometimes her morals can get really overbearing. But yeah, so I think that is it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.